Let me spend the next 10-15 minutes with you here today to show you how you can manage requirements with Rommana. In order to do that, I'm going to go and switch to the Rommana tool and open an actual project so that you can see that when you actually open Rommana, you'll see the list of all the projects that you are involved in. You click on any project to open. I am going to just go ahead and because I have the project open already. So I have here the project, the requirement screen open in front of you. All right. Uh, so on the left here, as you can see, there are all the requirements. In fact, let me click on the requirements here on the top so that you can see the requirement screen as you will see it when you open it for the first time. When you open the requirement screen, it shows all the requirement categories on the left here: functional, quality, and anything else. User interface, business requirements. The only two categories that are shipped with Rommana and predefined in Rommana are functional requirements and the quality requirements, assuming that every project will have at least these two categories. Now, you can go ahead and add any additional requirement categories, like as you can see here, I added user interface requirements, I added business requirements. In order to add a requirement category, you have to do this from the project screen. So if I were to click on the project here, it gives me the things that a project manager or a development manager or a test manager can do. One of them here, as you can see, is add a requirement categories. And the informational message here explains what I just have said. So if I click on this, I can add a new requirement category. Let me just call it a hardware requirements. Okay. And I can provide description here of what I mean by that, and I can save. And once I save, now I can go to the requirement screen and I will see the new category that I just added already there. Now, once you have requirement categories, you can go ahead and add any requirement under any one of those categories. You can add a functional requirement, you can add a quality requirement, you can have user interface requirements, and so on. If I click on the plus sign here, it shows me all the requirements that have been defined in this specific project. By the way, what you are looking at is a project that we had started in order to handle release 10.2 of Rommana itself. All right, and those are actually all the features that are already supported in Rommana 10.2. Okay, function requirements, quality requirements, user interface requirements, and so on. In order to define a requirement, you can create either a child or a sibling of a requirement, depending on where you'd like to position the requirement. If I go here, for example, to requirement number 12, okay, let me go to requirement number 12 here. Okay. Requirement number 12 speaks about change request to requirements. So it's handling the situation where someone has submitted a change request. We want to make it a requirement. This feature is now supported in 10.2. All right. Now keep in mind, requirement number 12 here on the top has three sub-requirements: 17, 29, and 30. I can go ahead and create a fourth child of requirement number 12 by creating add a child, or I can, if I'm looking at requirement number 17, for example, I can add a sibling of requirement number 17. Okay, it doesn't matter. You click on add a child, you click on add sibling, you get to the requirement screen where you can add a new requirement. I'm just going to add a test requirement here. I don't have to make up a new requirement. So I'm going to call this, this requirement is, this requirement, this is a test requirement. I'm going to call it that, if this is okay with you. All right. Now, the only other field that's required for requirement is the priority of the requirement, how critical that is, or how high, or how medium, how low. And those fields are customizable through the project screen again. So I'll say this is high. Okay, I can save the requirement right there. Now, a few other fields that are important are the status of the requirement. By default, the status of a requirement is under negotiation, because the assumption is that we're still going to work on that requirement. I can go ahead and provide any description I want here if I am writing that requirement, right? And I say it's still under negotiation because we have not finalized it yet. There are two very special status here: the baseline and the baseline, deferred, and implemented. Baseline means that this has been finalized and we're not going to make any changes to it anymore. Implemented means it have been implemented, actually coded and designed and tested and everything, and perhaps released. All right. If a requirement stats change to any one of those, then the only change that can be made to a requirement must be made through a change request. You see change request here. We're going to talk about change requests in a different webinar. All right. Now, deferred means that it's going to be in the future releases. All right. I'm going to leave it like that. Now, 10.2 is a release that's planned for this requirement, or this requirement is planned for release 10.2. Where does this come from? Because I can change that, by the way. But by default, the default value here is coming from the project screen again. I'm going to go to the project screen here. And when I go there, you'll find that the release of the project is 10.2. That's simply saying when a project manager starts this project, he or she has to decide on what release number are we going to be working on. All right, and that's important for all the reports we generate and all the screens we look at, because it should only show information for the specific release. So once they define or they specify what release they're going to be working on, that becomes a read-only. They cannot go back and change that. That's a read-only field. Now, I want you to pay attention to working iteration. Now, the project manager or the development manager can go anytime and change the iteration in which we're working. This is to support agile development. By default, we're going to be working on all iterations. We're going to be working on all iterations that are in the release 10.2. And that works fine when your project is not agile. But when your project is agile and you have multiple iterations or sprints within the release, then you can go here and specify, select one of the iterations, and I will tell you how you do that. All right. For example, right now you can specify iteration number 1 only, not all iterations, and that means that all the reports you create and all the screens you look at will show information, will show requirements only for iteration number 1. Start date and end date. Okay, let me go back to the requirement screen, and let me go back to the requirement I was working on, which obviously I forgot. I think I can search for it, by the way. I'm going to go down here at the bottom. I can look at test requirements. I think that's what it was. Okay, if I do that, then here you go. It was under 12. It was requirement number 62. Okay.